This is Homebrew Wednesday with your host Mike, Beer Addict Education, reporting in, drinking some fine, crystal clear honey mead. Redundant, but that's all it is. It's plain, simple mead. The one we went over in an earlier video, I told you guys my simple recipe. Delicious, clean, great. A very good homebrew alcohol to use as a base for mixing with other ingredients, fruits, spices, really anything you want. Just because of how clean it is, how it has a residual sweetness, which is the honey. And you know, honey's really good for you. So mead's a great alcohol to have around the house because it definitely does have some kind of health benefits. In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about a few random things, and mainly how to make homemade Belgian candy sugar. That's what I call it, candy sugar, Belgian dark rock candy, whatever you want to call it. But first, I wanted to give you a little brewery tour since a lot's changed since I did my last video. So starting from in the corner all the way to that side, in the back here we have a Long Island iced tea, which is basically taking a lot of sugar, an iced tea mix, and fermenting that using a very clean yeast, adding a little bit of lemon zest and other miscellaneous items to give kind of really that like iced tea, refreshing, and in an alcoholic version, why I'm calling it Long Island iced tea. Really, I'm calling it Longer Island iced tea because I think it's going the extra mile. It's going to be even better. Over here, I have a Belgian wit. I have two dark Belgian strong ales, a Hefeweizen, and in the corner over on this side, that very red drink, if you can see it, is my cranberry cider. Shit ton of cranberries in that one. The bottom over here, I still have my Berliner, which is really should be bottled because it's wasting space. It can age in the bottle. The bottom down here, I have just an apple cider, and underneath me over here is the wine. The wine's, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer to ferment than the instructions that I went over last week said. If they said 1 week, it's already been a week. I'm going to leave it another week at least because the temperature in here, I think that it's fermenting a lot slower. And then finally in the corner we have nothing. We have one more empty spot to add another member to the family when it comes. So yeah, I really got a full house right now. It's quite nice. These two, the Hefe and the Belgian Wit, I am going to keg them in 2 weeks. I'm going to let these two, which I brewed on Saturday, ferment for probably 4 weeks in primary. And maybe, I might not even secondary these. I might just add them straight to the keg, in which case I'll likely leave them in 5 weeks in primary. I've done that in the past with great results. It allows a lot of the stronger esters and even the high alcohols and specifically the excess CO2 and like just the bad smells that you don't want in a beer to go away. They're not permanent. Any of the gases that are given off in this fermentation will go away with time. So 5 weeks should do the trick. These two clocked in at 1082 as an original gravity. So that was really nice. Beersmith told me I hit 1087, so I was really close. Happy with that. Good efficiency. This one's actually made with like a strong Belgian ale, which is fermenting a lot faster. It's probably the yeast. These were both pitched at the same time. However, I used, W yeast like starter packs for both these beers, the smack packs, and I have to admit that they were both dated November and December respectively, the packs. They've been in my fridge for about 6 weeks, so they were already like, I was surprised when I got them from Ontario Beer Kegs that they had been, that the packages were dated that old. So this one took, they almost both took 15 hours to swell to a good amount. I mean, I'm really hoping it's not going to impede fermentation. It's quite a long time, and even after 15 hours, this bad boy, which was the what do we have over here? Belgian Abbey, didn't even swell. It swelled, but it didn't look like it was about to pop, which is the nice big swelling that you want. So I was pretty disappointed at that. That might be why this one's going off to a slower start than this one over here. It's actually the most likely reason. I don't know why. Maybe the yeast nutrient, not all of it. There was something wrong with the package, or maybe just the yeast itself were too dormant. Some damaged yeast. Hopefully, there's no damaged or dead yeast cells that actually went into these boys. Either way, they're both fermenting away. Again, it's only been about it's been 36 hours since pitching, so it's there's still time. They're not at peak at all. I have a feeling that those two are going to give a massive fermentation in about a day. So what I did for both of these, and in retrospect, I only did about half the quantity that I will in the future, but I made Belgian candy sugar for both these ales. Now, I've done this in the past. I've made rock sugar. Basically, boil the sugar for a certain amount of time, adding certain key ingredients that change certain chemical compositions of the sugar in order to make it... Oh, there was my dryer going off. In order to make it solidify and to actually completely change the flavor of it. For these two, I used 2 kilograms of normal table sugar, which I then turned into 2 kilograms of dark rock candy sugar. Note though that this time, as opposed to the first time I made it, I did not allow the candy to get to room temperature to solidify. I kept it warm. I made it the morning of the brewing, and then I added it as soon as the wort got to boiling temperature. It's quite an amazing sight, just because this sugar, when it reaches that dark, prune, raisin, just dark fruit, figs, when it reaches that flavor, that dark brown in color after you go through your various steps, it is so hot, that sugar. I mean, I think that when I read about it, it can get to 400 Fahrenheit, which is ridiculous. That when you add it to the boiling wort, it almost explodes. There's a reaction that's some would consider what looks like the hop, hop overboil. You know, when you add hops just at the boil and the other boil over. There's a name for it, but it's escaping me right now. But some might say that that's the equivalent, but with a lot of just these giant bubbles that come up out of nowhere. It's pretty scary. I thought that it was going to explode in my face at a couple of points, so I kind of tilted the pot over, standing afar, just because I didn't want to get hot candy sugar in my face, something every brewer wants to avoid. In any case, it's a very simple process, but I have a feeling that for a lot of people it would be a trial and error process. The first time I did it, it worked out perfectly. The second time and the third time it didn't work out so well. And now the fourth time I've done it, it took a little longer than the first time, but it worked out very well. I realized that the trick is patience, low heat, and fresh lemon. So that's what I was going to say, is that the lemon juice is actually the key ingredient. You need a citric acid to properly invert the sugar. You could probably do it in other ways, but I truly believe that this is the best way for stovetop decent results for a home brewer. So what you do is, my ratio at least, is 1 pound of sugar for half a cup of water. It's pretty ridiculous. You're adding hardly any water to a shit ton of sugar. Now what I do is I do it in two steps rather than just one. I'll add 1 cup of water and 1 kilogram of sugar in my pot. I'll put it to about a medium heat, and I'll continue stirring it until it's all dissolved, until you have a clear liquid, until it starts to simmer just a little bit. Now, once it comes to a simmer, I'll add 1 more cup of water and the other kilogram of sugar and do the process over again. It takes a little longer the second time just because some of the water, I guess, has evaporated and it's thicker than it was the first time. But eventually it does get to that clear color. Now you want it to, once it gets to that clear color and it starts to simmer, you're going to cut open one fresh lemon and you're going to squeeze a good squeeze of that half of a lemon right into it. And you might notice like a small little like clicking sound, and you might notice that the bubbles get a lot smaller and it's like a foam rather than just a simmer. This is good. You want to leave it like that, turn the temperature down to low, and just leave it like that. Just keep an eye on it. It's not going to change color right away, but you definitely want it to keep on simmering. You want to go away from those just plain sugar bubblegummy smells and really on to the much more caramel, butterscotch. In Quebec we'd say even tire. And later, you're going to get to your raisins. Then you're going to get to your dates and figs finally, which is the color that I stop at, the really, really dark stuff that hardens very fast. One fun trick to do during this process is to take a spoon and a nice white plate, and I don't know, every 5 to 10 minutes, just dip the spoon in the sugar and let a drop fall on the plate, and then as the process goes on, lay all the drops out next to each other, and you can actually see your process and your sugar design change as it goes. And it also helps you decide when you want to stop, because all the different colors of sugars, all the different like levels of, I don't know, caramelization will give a completely different flavor. So you can look those up. I'm not an expert on that, but there will be various levels of sweetness, various levels of flavors, and complexity. So it's really, like I said, it's really easy to make. That's pretty much all you got to do. Once the color starts to get a little bit yellow, I like to squeeze the other half of the lemon, all the juice, into the candy. And it starts to change a lot more rapidly. You have to be careful, because during this process, during this simmering, this boiling, and it's always keeping it low until you start to get a yellow color, it changes very, very rapidly from the start of caramelization to the dark, dark sugars. So what I do is, as soon as I start to see the yellow color, and then when I add that other half of the lemon, I will actually bump up the heat to medium until I see it get really yellow, and then when it gets really yellow, I'll bump it past medium, not to high, but somewhere in the middle there. And then it's probably going to be 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to have very, very dark sugar. And especially that last 5 minutes, it's going to go from, I don't know, I call it like almost orange to brown. So it's really important you pay attention so you don't burn your sugars, because it's a very easy thing to do. Now once you're done, depending on if you're brewing that day, you can, like I said, add the sugars directly to the hot wort. Keep them warm so that they don't crystallize, so they don't harden. Or you can spread the sugar out onto a tray of sorts with aluminum foil or something that you can easily scrape something off of after. You don't want it to get stuck. That's a pain in the ass. You put it in the freezer, and it will completely harden. It will turn into rocks. Then you basically just bash it up and put it into a bag, and then you can toss it into your brew whenever you do your brewing day. I'm pretty sure that has a long shelf life, so if you decide to go that route, you don't have to worry about the sugars going bad or anything like that. But make sure that the sugar is completely hardened before you put it in the bag. You don't want it melting into the bag. It's another big mess. I'd wear gloves. It gets really sticky. Do not let the sugar boil over onto your stove. It's a pain in the ass to clean up. As soon as it crystallizes on your stovetop, you're going to be sitting there with either continuously pouring boiling water on it to get it to dissolve, or with a little chisel and hammer, you're just going to be banging at it for hours. So it's a fun experiment. I suggest everyone try it. You can make it with a Belgian. You can make it with any kind of beer you want. You can make it dark candy blonde. Who the hell cares? Just do it. It's awesome. It's a fun experiment, and even if you don't want to do it for brews, it's a cool little fun experiment to just do with the family, I guess. You could make rock candy on a stick at home. It's really easy. It's super cheap. All you're doing is buying 2 kilos of sugar. That's basically one of the bags that we get here in Montreal in the province. So yeah, that's it. a little homebrewing tip, the way that I do things. Hope you'll give it a shot. And I'll get back to you guys next week with another video, another subject. This is Mike. You've been a great audience once again. Puranic Education is here to serve you. Cheers, guys. Have a great week. See you later.